Thank you for joining me for the 1.73 hotfix guide for Survival Game Kit. I'm going to take you through the steps that are needed to go from 1.72 to 1.73. If you're in an earlier version than 1.72, you'll need to follow one of my previous tutorials to get yourself up to this version. Let's say you're on 1.7, you would need to do 1.71 and then do this, the 1.72 that gets you to the current one that I'm on. And now you'll do the 1.73. So make sure that you look at in the level, you'll see something similar to what you're seeing on the screen right now and a version number. After you're done doing an update, make sure you always change that so that you realize what updates you have and which ones you still need to do. To see what I'm going to be following today, you can go to diffusestudios.com and take a look at their support section and patch notes. There is a 1.73 hotfix section, and I will be having a link to this in the description as well. If you'd like to go and join the Discord server to hang out with other developers, make sure you join that in the link below. It's a free service, very easy to use, and we've got a nice group of developers that are hanging out and helping each other throughout the day. Also, we have a Patreon, so if you'd like to support me in purchasing assets that I can cover on future tutorials, you're more than welcome to do that. And make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you get notifications of future tutorials that I do. Let's go and get started on this 1.73. First, this patch is going to do a fix for a center screen issue with aiming. But Survival Game Kit uses a method where it shoots from a socket on the end of your gun and then shoots towards the exact center of the screen. So on a dedicated server, I don't remember if it was the second client or one of these, it wasn't truly going to center, so it was causing the aim to be off. What we need to do first is to open up the master range weapon. To do this, we'll go to content on the left and then search in the right filter for master range weapon. Go ahead and open that up. And then on the left-hand side, where it says My Blueprint, you need to search for Screen Trace. I'll zoom up a bit so you can see where I'm at. Right here where it says Add Spread to Trace. We're going to be doing something a little bit different here. So there's this Get World Location. We're going to be deleting that. And then we're going to do a search on the left. And one thing, let's see, it probably won't exist yet. We'll need to do camera center. This is a variable that we're going to need to create. So click the plus where it says variables. Make the name camera center, or you could call it screen center. Either way will work, but we'll just call this one camera center. And the type we need to change because this needs to be a vector. So on the upper right here, hit the drop down where it says variable type and choose vector. Now we can drag that camera center that's on the left hand side out onto the screen and do a get, and then connect that to this plus. So it's going to plus, and then it's going to have some other things that it's tracing. So this should allow it to now pull a variable that we're going to give information about. So rather than doing these calculations over here, it's going to be using a value that we're going to set. Now we need to go into the survival inventory interface. So to do this, go to the showcase, make sure you're on content, then search for survival inventory interface. You'll see it right there. Double click that. And in here, do a search on the upper right here. So type in left mouse, and you'll see left mouse input action. Go ahead and double click that. In the lower right, we need to add another input, and that's going to be that screen center that we just did. We called it this up here. We called it camera center. So I'm going to actually call it camera center just to match, so it's all the same. So camera center. To Hit the drop down and make it a vector. We'll probably get some errors from doing this, so go ahead and hit compile. And then we'll do a save. And then I'm going to close this interface. So to begin with, we're going to need to go to the master foldable. So go to showcase and in content, search for master foldable in the filters, double click that. And now let's compile it. Okay. No errors there. So go ahead and hit save. And let's open up the master inventory component. Double click that and you're on the main screen content and filter that. Put that so we can see it. I'm going to compile. And save this. Okay, so I'm going to hit save all really quick. And we need to set the value for that camera center. To do that, under content, we're going to do a search for master range weapon. I already have it open, but you can type master range weapon and open it there. But since we haven't closed it yet, I'll go to the top and we go to event graph. Currently we're in screen trace. So hit graphs here, double click event graph. And then we need to find where it's event left mouse input action. You'll notice that we now have an input or an output here that isn't being used because we added that to the interface. So drag the event out a little bit to the left and then drag from, let's actually drag from the exec here, drag off of that and put set camera center. Hit enter on that. It'll now place it between the two. Then we need to connect the camera center. I'll double click on the key down line there and we'll reroute it around just to keep it looking nice, not going underneath of another node. Let's compile and save that really quick. And then we need to go to the player inventory component. So to do this, go back to the showcase, go to content and search for player inventory component. Double click that to open. We need to find the left mouse input action. So first we're in the event graph. We'll zoom out a bit and we'll get to the section over here in green. And I'll do a quick filter just so that we can find this a little bit. Let's do on the upper left, search for left server left mouse. It says server left mouse input action. Double click that. It'll bring you right in the section that we want to be at. Now on this, we need to add a new output for this. And it's going to match some of the ones that we've done before because we're going to add that camera center to this. So when you have the server left mouse input action selected, on the right hand side where it says inputs, hit the plus there. And there it says new param, go ahead and type in camera center. The drop down and we'll choose a vector. Now hit compile. And then once that finishes, we will need to add so that this left mouse input action will have the correct input as well, not just the key down. We want to be able to send that camera center information to this. So one thing we could do is drag from the camera center to that left mouse and action input. You see how it added it for us, called camera center, the exact same variable. Go ahead and compile and save that now. Now we are going to stay in this player inventory component, but we need to make some changes to this. So to begin with, we need to get to the left mouse action input section. We've got a lot of things up here. You might have a lot of things up here. So I'm going to find it on the left and the search, I'm going to do left mouse action. You'll see left mouse action input. Double click that. We have this input over here, and out of it we have the camera center that we created. Well, we need to feed that into this left mouse input action that we have adjusted because it's waiting for an input now. So we'll have to draw, let's go ahead and drag from the camera center over here, drag it to the top camera center, then double click along the line at some point where you want to split them. See there, I have it having a straight line. And then I'm going to drag off that pin, that reroute node down to this camera center. Now I have one line coming through here. I'll do one more reroute node just to make this look a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so now we've got it to where that input or that information is going all the way to the left mouse action input at the end of left mouse action input function event. Okay, so that is almost done. We need to still do one more thing in a different blueprint. So what we need to do is get into, if you're just doing this for Survival Game Kit, you would be in the survival character. That would be under Survival Game Kit, Blueprints, Character, and then in here you have your survival character. If you're doing the ALS and Survival Game Kit combo that I've done, we aren't using that as our main blueprint. You need to go to Advanced Locomotion V3, Blueprints, and you'll see ALS-based character. Double click that to open it. And if you are doing just the Survival Game Kit mode, you would open up the other blueprint and still follow the similar direction. So we need to find here where we're doing left mouse button. So to do that, I'm going to search for left input. And input, that's not going to be the correct one. We need to find the correct, whatever you've called it. So I'm going to actually show you how to do this because you may have a different name. We're not going to rely on the defaults. Go to Edit, Project Settings. Then go to Input. And then Axis Mappings. Actually, Action Mappings. And then there will be a fire action. This will be your left mouse button. So you need to see what yours is called. Whatever you're doing for the left mouse button, maybe it's left mouse click or whatever you're calling it. Mine is called fire action. The one I've done in my tutorials has been fire action. So you need to take a note of what that event is, whichever one is calling that left mouse button, and do a search for that. So I'm going to do fire action for mine. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. In the ALS-based character, fire action. So it's input action, fire action. I'm going to double click that and it takes me right to the section that I need to be. Now, one thing you'll see here, it now has a camera center that it's trying to find. So to do this, we need to create some code here first. To make some room, we're going to move these down. I'm going to highlight everything below it. And then I'm going to drag it down enough to put some code in. So for this, I bet you that we have this code somewhere else that he's getting ready to reference. Let's look through and see where else we've been. I think that this will probably be in the master weapon. So there is the master range weapon. And then once again, I'm going to do a search on the left-hand side for the screen trace. Feel this code that we removed? I think this is pretty much the code that we are wanting. So I'm going to highlight all of this and make sure you include these two, this component and the camera view. I'm now going to, so I have it all highlighted, but I don't have this select here highlighted. going to hit Control C. I am then going to go back to this ALS based character. I'm going to hit Control V. And then verify that this is all correct. First thing, we are referencing something that already exists here. So what we can do is delete these. And I'm going to do drag off from FP camera. I'm going to just search for FP camera. And it'll be a get FP camera. I'm going to drag off from TP camera. I'm going to do get TP. You'll see get TP camera there. Same thing. I'm going to delete up here where it says ADS camera. I'm going to drag from true. I'm going to do get ADS. You'll see get ADS camera. So there we go. We've got that much so far. Rather than this player inventory component, we're not referencing that to the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag off of this and just do get inventory. And I'm going to redo that because it's referencing, it has the right name, but it's not referencing the right thing. We'll do the same thing. I'm going to hit Control C on this one, paste it, and then I'll do a Control click drag, or I could have just dragged off and found it again. So double check all these values. Now I actually had one I deleted and replaced. We'll recreate that really quick. So from return value, I want to drag off and get world location. Then these values, we'll drag this up. First of all, to this camera center. I have to move this up for a second and then drag up into that camera center. Nodes out just a hair. Okay. So now we have get world location. It is going into both of these. We're getting the player inventory component. We're getting the camera view from there. We have our third and first person camera correctly referenced. We have the ADS camera, inventory component, ADS is the index, and then it's getting the world location and feeding those into the camera center. So that should take care of this. Go ahead and compile and save. And then we'll move on to the next section. And that has to do with some errors with player inventory component. So now that we've done this, go ahead and save. I'm going to go back to Showcase and do a save all, save any files that we've been working with. And then we need to be in the player inventory component. I already have this open, so I'm going to go back to it. You could select content and do a search for it. But we are in the player inventory component. I'm going to go back to the event graph. So I can't double click it here because I'm underneath of it. So click the event graph up top. And then I need to find new multicast new client connected. Here we go. So this is just not called multicast. In his last tutorial, he didn't name it, but what we can do is, because this is a multicast, let's go ahead and rename. So just so you can see where I'm at, we're in server begin play. And we have this section down here that will actually be moving down to the multicast section because that's what it is. So what you could do is highlight this and move it up a bit. Going to be tied to that. And then this multicast we'll select the event, put on the front of it, multicast. There we go. Multicast new client connected. Then what we'll do is we'll select all of that. We'll drag it down to the multicast events and we'll hit C, put a comment on around it. So we want new client connected. There we go. So now we have that multicast all in the proper place. It's referencing how he was intending to reference it, but we need to put an is valid check in between here. So extend to the right, about that much. And then we want to go and highlight everything to the right of that held actor, the first held actor, then drag it to the right some. From the first set actor, we're going to do a drag and is valid. Make sure it is the white question mark. And from master character, drag that to the input object. I'm also going to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to reroute this node around and line this up. I want this to be readable. Okay. So now we have an is valid check. If it's valid, if the master character is valid, it will continue. If it's not, it will stop. Next, we need to do a few more is valid checks. So inside of here, we're in the same player inventory component. In the upper left, we need to do a client update equipment slot. Search for that, double click it, take you to the proper section. We're going to add it right after the event call and before that update equipment menu. So let's go and extend to the left a little bit. We might have to extend to the right as well. We'll try this first. So move that client update all the way over, drag off of it, and do an is valid once again. Do the white question mark. And we're going to make sure that this inventory HUD is valid. So drag that in there. Shrinks it down a little bit. I'm going to give myself a little extra room here because I'm going to reroute these nodes and things so it's easier to read. We get a lot of stuff crossing over each other. So we have here one line. What we could do is do a reroute node. Do it like this. Okay, and then off of this equipment slot, what we can do is route that a little bit. And then I'm actually going to bring it around and just, I like to make it so that it makes sense. Because multiple things going across, it can get kind of messy. There we go. And we'll do one more here. Okay. So now we have our is valid check happening in the middle here. And it does it before, make sure that the HUD is valid. And then at this point, it's making sure that the model viewer is valid before it does that. But that should take care of that. There's one more is valid check we need to do. And this is still in the player inventory component, but you need to go to the upper left and search for stop interact timer. Double click that. And we'll be adding it between this clear and invalidate timer and then the end interact UI timer. But what I can do to make it so I don't have to move everything around, let's just kind of tighten these up a bit. I like to kind of zoom out and make sure that nothing gets weird when you zoom in and out. But we can bring these a lot closer together. Give ourselves enough room to do an is valid here. Plus, I think it'll just look better. Okay. So from this clear, do an is valid. The white, once again, the white question mark. But we need to check the inventory HUD. So it's already referenced here. So what we could do is just drag it off of there. Double click on the second line. There we go. And we'll have that one go over. We could do the same thing for this one. There we go. So we have an is valid check going for both of those as well. So that should correct some errors, component errors when things aren't quite exactly what the plugin is expecting. So go ahead and hit compile and save. Now let's look at some issues with animations not lining up to the weapons. So it's using wrong animations. So to do this, we'll go to the showcase first. I want to do a save all just to make sure everything is current. Let's do a quick fix up redirectors. Okay, we're good on that. And then we will go into the BS_ADS rifle. So in content, do a search in the filters, BS_ADS. Use the rifle. I'm going to bring up the blend space. And then we need to right click on one of these animations and change all the animations to, you see here it says ADS forward rifle. What we need to do is change that to ADS idle rifle. So it says we have to right click and it says open the ADS rifle blend space, then right click each one of the animations on the blend space grid and change all the animations to ADS rifle. So this is going to change all of these. So ADS idle rifle. You see that there? ADS idle rifle. Go ahead and select it. And looks like we need to do this for all of them. So one other way that you could do this. Yeah, they're all ADS forward rifle. I'll show you a quick trick that we can do. So here on the one that says ADS idle rifle, I'm going to click the little search icon there. You know, it selected it on this screen. Now I'm going to go and click back into that blend space without changing which one was selected. I'm going to click the left arrow on all of these. Saves you from having to right click on each one and go and change them. Okay. Now we need to go back to Showcase. We need to search for the BP 1982. There will be a blueprint that you can double click and open. And in here, we need to do a search. We need to search for range, weapon, animations, and then search for BP. Actually, first I'll show you. Here's all the weapons animations that are selected for various, like reload and when you're idle, aiming down sights, all of this. But we need to find a specific one in here. The one we need is the third person ADS jog blend space. This one right here. But what I'm going to do is do a filter just for that specific one, just to make sure that we do the correct one, because there's a lot that are very similar names. So do TP space ADS space jog, and then you see the TP ADS jog blend space. We need to change this animation, the drop down, and then do a search and change it to BS space aim space rifle. That's the BS aim rifle. Hit compile and save that. So that was using the incorrect animation. That should now be the correct animation. There's one more fix that we need to do, and that is to fix the armor count. So the total armor count is not correct. So to find this, let's go ahead and close all of these except for the player inventory component. If you already closed it, you can go to the content and search for player inventory component. Double click and open that. Then we need to be on the upper left in get total armor. Double click that. And now what we need to do is to right click and get a reference to the feet equipment slot. So do get feet equipment slot. Because if you notice, this is getting the head equipment slot. This is getting the chest equipment slot. Oh, it's getting the chest again and the legs. It never gets the feet equipment slot here. So on this, right click on the output node of the feet equipment slot and then do a split struct pin. Now you'll see it's very similar to the other one that we're going to replace. And so we can actually delete that other one and then drag it to the place where it was. From that feet equipment slot item, drag that to the item in. And now it'll have the correct value of your total armor based on all the items you're wearing. Before, it would have given you double the chest armor and you would have gotten no feet armor. So this will correct that issue. This pretty much concludes all the fixes for 1.7.3, but we'll compile and save this, and then we'll go change the version number in the level because we want to keep track of exactly what version we're working with. Currently, it says in the level that we are working with 1.7.2, and so make sure you find this in the level, select the text that says version. On the right-hand side where it says text, change that to a 3. Now it's 1.73. Save that, and you should be good to go. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you join our Discord server. That's the place where we're all hanging out, answering questions throughout the day, talking about general game development, and really getting into it there. Also, I have a Patreon if you want to help for me to get new future assets. It can be very expensive. I've gotten some requests for some assets that are $100 and something each, and I don't own them yet. So those funds that come in through the Patreon, I use those to purchase ones that I can use in future tutorials. Also, you can like and subscribe. You can click that bell to make sure you get notifications of future tutorials that I do. So if you do appreciate these, feel free to make a comment. And if you have any questions, make a comment in the section below and join me for the next video. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys later.